Hello, I'm Farah Nasser, and this is the West Block, politics, perspectives, and players. This week, we're focusing on those most impacted by the now cancelled government contract with WE, Canada's youth. Their prospects for employment were shattered this summer because of the coronavirus pandemic. I spoke with 23-year-old Alfred Burgesson, a member of the Prime Minister's Youth Council, to find out about his concerns with WE and what he wants done with the over $900 million that had been set up for a nationwide summer work program. We're also going to hear why he thinks the government has not made dealing with racism and discrimination against Black, Indigenous, and people of colour in Canada a priority. Alfred Burgesson is a 23-year-old member of the Prime Minister's Youth Council who had questions about the partnership with WE. He joins us now from Halifax. Thank you for being our guest, Alfred. Before we get started on that, tell us more about your role on the Prime Minister's Youth Council. What was that like?
Sure. So I joined the Prime Minister's Youth Council last year, and it's an advisory board of youth ages 16 to 24. Created and led by our PM, Justin Trudeau. We are Canada's first ever youth council, and so as a council, we provide nonpartisan advice to the Prime Minister and our government. I can tell you that it's been a great learning opportunity for me so far, and it's a special thing we have here in Canada. Not many countries create spaces like this for young people. The cohorts before mine have called for diversity and youth involved in decision making, and it's led to government's commitment to have 75% of Crown Corps include young persons on their board. And recently, some youth council members and I shared an anti-racism calls to action letter and some recommendations to the PM and his team. And we believe that these calls to action would allow us to dismantle systemic racism in Canada today.
I'm going to get into that, Alfred, because I really want to discuss that with you. But let's first talk about WE, because given your role, you were given an opportunity to be on a Canada Student Services Grant Advisory Board, and that was to do with the WE contract, but you declined. Why?
I did decline, and as I've said before, I haven't heard a lot of positive things about the experiences of my peers that they've had with the organization. And lately, we've heard allegations about racism within the organization and problematic international operations. But I think I'll leave it there. I'm not interested in delving too deep into WE. I want to stay focused on how we can collectively make this situation better for young people.
I just do have to pick up on that, though. When you talk about potential or allegations of racism in the organization, can you give us a bit more on that?
I don't have any personal experience to that matter. That's something that I've seen online through others. I believe there was a call to action created by former employees of WE to their board. And so I can refer to that, but I'll just leave it there because I personally don't have any experience dealing with WE.
What advice do you have for the Prime Minister right now, Alfred?
In terms of advice for the Prime Minister, again, we have nearly $1 billion that should be available to support students, and the summer is almost over. So we need to ensure that students are valued and that they receive these investments during this unprecedented time. Alongside a collective of youth organizations and youth programs, program managers in Canada, we're launching a campaign called 1B4Y, so 1 billion for youth. And essentially, we want to create a set of guiding principles that the government could follow and how we can administer this $1 billion moving forward.
Okay. I want to switch the focus now on, you mentioned at the beginning of this conversation that letter that you put out. Let's start, though, with the Prime Minister. He called you shortly after those blackface photos came out. What did he say to you then? And how do you feel now about some of the perhaps promises that were made?
So we're still awaiting meaningful changes regarding anti-racism calls to action from our government. I had conversations with the Prime Minister last year on what he could do to lead by example. And as we said, the members of the Youth Council have written another letter. But this is not something that he can do alone, right? Like this needs to be done in collaboration with provinces, territories, and municipalities. We've been vocal. I'm just not sure this is a priority for our current government, but I guess time will tell. And so we're hopeful that progress will be made on that front.
It's interesting that you said that you think this isn't a priority. I mean, this is a government which ran on gender equity, on a focus of diversity, reconciliation. Are you saying that the government is all talk, no action?
Yeah, I mean, I think we as citizens need to demand the changes, right? We can march and we can call for change, but nothing will happen if we don't have specific calls to action. And so, like I said, the Youth Council and members of the Youth Council have put forward a set of recommendations, but we really need the public and others across Canada to put pressure on our government. And if people are interested in adding their voice to petitions and getting engaged and having a direct line to our politicians in Canada, they can get engaged by visiting collectiveaction.ca.
Alfred, I want to end off with this. What are you most optimistic about right now?
What I'm most optimistic about right now is that we have nearly $1 billion to spend on youth. And we need to ensure that we spend this money. And if I can give any sort of feedback to the government on how we can do this well, there are 5 guiding principles I would like to leave. And that is, young people across Canada should be a part of shaping how we spend this money. This should not be something that's created by the government alone. Second, we need to center equity in this investment. We need to prioritize organizations led by Black and Indigenous people to work with other youth within their community. Third, we need to expand the funds to non-students to make the spending more equitable and perhaps develop pathways for education for young people who may not be in post-secondary education right now. We need to extend the program past the timeline of the summer and perhaps look at December of 2020 or March of 2021. Youth need more time. And lastly, we really need to include youth in building back better. And we need to launch, national challenges that allow youth-led organizations to co-create solutions today. We need action. And if this sounds like something that you want to support, you can do so by visiting collectiveaction.ca.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Alfred Burgesson is a member of the Prime Minister's Youth Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Farah.
That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us for the West Block. I'm Farah Nasser.